Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's Last Post ceremony. My name is Richard Cruz, and joining us today from the Australian Army is Lieutenant Andrew Evans. We warmly welcome the family and friends of Captain Paul John McKay, whose story will be told shortly. We're also honoured to welcome Senator Rex Patrick, Senator for South Australia, Miss Michaela Charoux on behalf of Mr Steve Jorganis, Member for Adelaide, South Australia, Mr Chris Condon on behalf of the Office of the Honourable Shane Newman, Shadow Minister for Veterans Affairs and Defence Personnel, Miss Liz Cosson, Secretary Department of Veterans Affairs, and Dr Bernadette Boss, Interim National Commissioner for Defence and Veteran Suicide Prevention, Dr Brendan Nelson, President of Boeing Australia, New Zealand and South Pacific, the Australian Army Rugby Union teams, who are here today to remember the service of Captain Paul McKay. As always, we welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving and the families that love and support them. We acknowledge the members of RSL Services Clubs Association, RSL Victoria and RSL Queensland, who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. Also today, we commemorate the 15th anniversary of Operation Astute, the Australian-led military deployment to Timor-Leste to quell unrest and return stability. On this day, 15 years ago, Australia deployed a joint task force comprising personnel from 3 Brigade, Black Hawk helicopters from 5 Aviation Regiment, Special Forces troops, Royal Australian Air Force Hercules aircraft, and one of the largest Royal Australian Navy task groups operationally deployed since the Second World War. As well as the Australian Army, Royal Australian Navy and Royal Australian Air Force, forces from Malaysia, New Zealand and Portugal were also represented. The deployment brought a rapid end to the violence, and Australian personnel remained in Timor-Leste to support UN operations until 2013. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection by family and visitors to the memorial. Australia's Federation Guard is a tri-service ceremonial unit of the Australian Defence Force. They provide a ceremonial presence at civil and military events and during visits to Australia by foreign dignitaries. The Guard will now dismount the catapult party from the tomb of the unknown Australian soldier. If you're able, I invite you all to please stand and join in singing the national anthem. If you're able, please be seated. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn their loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight we'll read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 102,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Reeds and floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection.
Today we remember and pay tribute to Captain Paul John McKay. Paul was born in Adelaide, South Australia on the 17th of November 1982 to Angela and John McKay. 4 years later, his sister Claire was born. Paul attended Portside Christian School, Pulteney Grammar and Marden Senior College, where he achieved a TER score of 98.65 in Year 12. Highly intelligent and disciplined in pursuing his studies, Paul was then accepted to the University of Adelaide for a double degree in Commerce and Law, which he achieved with honours. He was also awarded the Dean's Prize for being the best debater in his year. His other passions were sport and the arts. Paul loved cricket and Australian rules football and was a keen supporter of the Port Power. He was also the goalkeeper for the Pulteney Grammar Old Boys Hockey Club. Paul also enjoyed the cinema and live theatre, and like other members of his family, he loved to travel. In 2004, he joined the Army Reserve's Adelaide University Regiment and completed officer training in just 14 months, graduating from Duntroon in February 2006. He was awarded the Geddes Prize for the most outstanding cadet in the field phase of military skills. Paul nominated the Royal Australian Infantry Corps as his first preference and was accepted. His postings in the Army Reserve as a lieutenant included Officer Commanding Delta Company, 1027 Royal South Australian Regiment, Liaison Officer to the Brigadier of the 9th Brigade, and Instructor with the Adelaide University Regiment. He was promoted to Lieutenant in February 2007. Paul had aspirations to pursue a career in law alongside continuing his service with the reserves, with longer-term goals in business and politics. In 2009, after being admitted to the bar, he turned to his military career and transferred from the reserves to the regular army in January 2010. Posted to the 1st Battalion, Royal Australian Regiment in Townsville, Paul was initially Officer Commanding of the Rehab Platoon and then Commander of 8th Platoon within Charlie Company. With the battalion, he deployed on Rifle Company Butterworth to Singapore, Malaysia and Brunei from November 2010 to February 2011. Paul's next deployment was to Afghanistan in early May 2011, where he was stationed at Tarrant Cow, Uruzgan Province. His role was Night Battle Captain in the Command Centre of Combined Team Uruzgan Headquarters. Here he was in charge of coordinating responses to any attacks or incidents that occurred within the province. The job carried a lot of responsibilities and was at times stressful and exhausting. Towards the end of January 2012, Paul was medically evacuated from Afghanistan and returned to Australia, where after a period of leave, he posted to the Land 125 Integrated Soldier System project in Canberra. He was promoted to captain in April 2013. While in Canberra, he was an active member of St Paul's Anglican Church at Monica, was a practising Freemason, a volunteer with the SES, and a member of the East Lake Australian Rules Football Club. But after he came back from Afghanistan, Paul was never the same person. He was troubled and lived in a world of silence and sorrowful memories. On the 29th of December 2013, Paul flew to the United States, eventually making his way by bus to the small town of Saranac Lake in upstate New York, in the heart of the Adirondack Mountains. On New Year's Eve, he climbed nearby Scarface Mountain. Before long, a polar vortex hit the region and temperatures plummeted to minus 30 degrees Celsius. The US authorities believe that Paul died sometime during the early hours of New Year's Day, 2014, as a result of hypothermia. His body was not found for 16 days. He was 31 years old. The choice of Scarface Mountain was significant. The mountain is named after its massive scar, a rocky ledge that's covered in snow most of the year. Even during the warmer months, the scar is visible. Paul McKay also carried scars from his service, but they were hidden inside. Just before making his journey to Saranac Lake, he wrote a final letter to his parents in which he said that ultimately he was fighting an unwinnable battle. Paul's body was returned to Adelaide following his funeral at St. Peter's Anglican Cathedral, cremated. Then in June 2014, Paul's parents returned his ashes to the place that he chose to die on Scarface Mountain and scattered them there on the quiet wooden peak. A cairn with a cross and poppies marks the spot today, and since 2014, a small service has been held there each Anzac Day. Throughout the 10 years of his military career, Paul always showed total loyalty, dedication and commitment to the Australian Army. Like the Royal Australian Regiment's motto, to Paul McKay was always duty first. Paul's story has inspired fundraising events for Soldier On, and he is remembered on several memorials in Australia. Paul's legacy has been to promote awareness of the risk of suicide among returned soldiers and to help shine a light on the troubles our veterans face and the scars they bear when they return home from war. 7 years have passed since losing Paul. I still remember him every day. Occasionally they're sad and mournful thoughts at losing a brother and a friend. Other times they're happy memories. What I'll always remember fondly about Paul is that he was never afraid and he was always up for a challenge. He did what he wanted to do on his own terms. And that is how I try to remember him every day, even if only for a few moments. His name is listed on the Roll of Honour on my left, among the 43 Australians who have died during or as a result of their service in Afghanistan. His photograph is displayed today beside the pool of reflection. This is but one of the many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Captain Paul John McKay, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old, as we who are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them.
Arms! party in Cattle party
We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Pozières or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes this evening's last post ceremony. We thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial and wish you all a very good evening. Thank you.